Hello, welcome to Health and Beauty Hacks. I'm your host, Muenz. And in this episode, you get to meet Muenz, and she's amazing. She's a gift activator, and we're going to discover all the things that we can activate: health, beauty, wealth, our own spiritual intelligence. So, welcome, Jay. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thanks, Mia. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Would you like to share with the audience how you got to be this beautiful gift activator?
Yeah. It started when it started when I was really young and I didn't really realize what I was doing. And then when I became a health coach in 2011, I became this weight loss expert for women. And over 7 years of coaching, I realized that what was happening was they were waking up to their gifts. And it happened time and time again. And then the last year of full time weight loss coaching, I realized that 9 out of 10 of them were starting their own businesses based on what we had discovered in our sessions together. And I was way more excited about hearing about that than about like food diaries and bloating and all that stuff. And I was like, I need to really lean into this poll. And so I led this retreat in April 2019. Maybe it was February, I can't remember. And it was called Activate Your Gifts. And the moment I came up with that title, I was like, oh, well, like something had happened to me when that title was brought out. And then I led the retreat and there was 20 women. And it was like a retreat I had never experienced. It was like everybody went through this vortex of transformation within 3 days. And after that retreat, I started hearing from the women, and they were getting divorces, and they were quitting their jobs, like their high powered jobs, and they were starting their own businesses. And they were like, that woke me up to my own capabilities. And so that was like the most fun I've ever had. And then I transitioned fully to spiritual mindset, gift activation for entrepreneurs. And now sky is the limit.
I love that. It's seriously, when you wake up, it's
Yeah.
wonderful on that side. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is lovely. So let's talk about how to know when you're guided with your intuition versus your frenetic frequencies. And we
Mm.
know that we've all met people that are just like, and we're like, whoa.
Stay away.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it's your intuition, it feels really good. And it's not something that you think about. It's kind of just, you might be taking a bath. That's when my intuitive hits happen, is like anytime I'm near water, in the bath or in the shower, I can be thinking, and then all of a sudden it feels like a body wave that starts from the crown chakra. And then it's like something like that. And then it's a almost a surrendering to what's going to happen. You have this idea and you're like, I got to run with this, and I don't know why, but this is just what I'm doing. And then you do it, and you do it over and over again, and you're strengthening your intuition. Versus like frantic side is like, I have to make money and this has to happen. And there's so much pressure, and it's like you have your claws sunk into an idea rather than just the flow. And the flow
Yeah.
is where I find myself in time and time again.
It's amazing. Several things I just was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So do you know what happens? There are those of us that are actually water people.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens all the time. Our body, as you know, we just, Jay and I were together at a event this weekend that was amazing. And your body is so full of water. As adults, we think it's still at like 86%, but that's baby stuff. We're at 60% and it still resonates. And that, I believe that's why the moment we get in the water, whether it runs on our head or underneath in the tub, going under, everything starts to feel at peace, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so if people just chose where they feel the best sense of, like you said, your
Yeah.
intuition coming through or your guidance coming through, get there and
Mm-hmm.
spend some time there and have things come forward. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And for some people it's water, and for some people it's nature. And like my aunt, we call her Oprah for White Oprah. because she like, when she looks in at you, it's into your soul. It's like past everything else. And she is so connected to nature. It's like her life force. And for water people, I think it's water. So it's like connect to whatever it is that you feel, something that you can't explain, and just spend more time in that arena to get more connected.
Yeah, I love that. That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
So let's talk about testing our body. Our body has so much wisdom. How to test our bodies to see if we want to operate a higher frequency or if something feels right or doesn't feel right.
So the first time I ever experienced where the body was telling me something and I didn't even consciously know what was happening was muscle testing. It was so weird. And I started muscle testing to figure out why I was having so much vertigo, in an ongoing decade-long battle with vertigo, and flew across the country multiple times trying to figure it out. And the only reprieve I found was with a muscle tester in San Francisco. And it was like the body knew. I didn't know, but the body knew what supplements it needed. The body knew where it was, the flow was stopped. And then I started muscle testing on myself, and I would do it with tinctures, I would do it with food, I would do it. And so the blood tests are great, but the blood tests tell you like second to second what's happening. And your blood changes so quickly that sometimes it's so inaccurate to actually get blood tests. And if you hold something up to yourself and you start muscle testing to figure out what actually agrees with your body and what doesn't, that was the first time I really was like aware of your energetic aura and aware of your energy field and how big it is and how it can make you go all the different places. And when I started tuning into frequency, I started, and it's something you do unconsciously when you're around people, and either you lean into them or you kind of like, cross your arms because it's an obvious disconnection. Or if you find yourself getting pulled into something, I've learned so many techniques to protect my own energy. I found myself like, if I'm really pulled into someone's story and I'm starting to feel what they're feeling, I cut the cord. So like I do that, if I'm on a session, I'll like do it really so they can't notice or anything, but you're so connected to someone else's experience, especially as an empathic person and a highly sensitive person, that you tuning into your own frequency and what is leaking and where it's leaking, and maybe it's someone you're around, and tuning into where the frequency could be dipping, the energy, the vibration could be dipping, is the first step to knowing how to raise your frequency. And I mean, I could talk about this all day.
Well, you know what? It's important, and it's important for people to understand that they have a higher state about themselves because all they feel is the ups, the downs, right? They put it with the emotional feeling. They don't
Yeah.
put it with, hey, I'm having a reaction or I'm
Yeah.
having a greatness here. Let's talk about to ourselves how that feels and where is that coming from. So this is really beautiful because it's transformational for people to understand their own emotions and their energies that pour out.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is observation and awareness. And that's really the first part. You're saying, like, get out of the emotional body, get out of the thoughts, get out of the judgment, and get into the observation of why and where it's coming from, and the awareness of it, and trying to remove the judgment of the feeling is first step, especially if you're dealing with anxiousness or depression or chronic illness, is just to observe, not to judge, to become aware. Oh, what was the thought before that physical symptom came to surface? What did I have a thought? Oh, I can't remember the thought. What was I doing? Who was I around? Someone? Was I watching something? Was I reading something? So tuning into that will make you leap in frequencies. It happens so quickly.
Yeah. Something that you'd said earlier on about relaxing into the process and the energy and not fighting the grain, more or less, to relax into money instead of being stressed out. That's really a beautiful surrender
Mhm.
that we need to do it in all kinds of healing healings, don't we? We need to do it with
Mhm.
loss. We need to do it with settling down for our money flow. Let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about this because this is an important place. It doesn't matter if it's money or, and some people say, wait a minute, I don't get that. Whether it's money, love, or healing, to
Mhm.
surrender into that and to relax into that, how powerful that is. That's where our answers lie. Do you have some idea that
Oh,
you
yeah.
can share? Good.
Yeah, and I have a surrender story. It was in the shower, water people, and I was thinking, and this was after like maybe 8 years in business, maybe 7 years in business, and I was thinking like, I'm doing all the things. I'm showing up, I'm emailing, I'm checking all the lists, and the results are there, but they're not coming in the way that I would anticipate. And so I was showering and I was like, I'm leaving it up to you now. And it was like this 100 pounds came off of me. And it was again that full body feeling of like, I'm surrendering. I believe it's going to happen. I will continue doing the work. I will continue consistently showing up in the best way I can. I will continue doing the work on myself. And I will just surrender and know that everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. And it felt almost like euphoria when I got out of the shower. It was so beautiful. And I checked my phone and I had two messages that said, "Hey, I want to join your mastermind." And I was like, "What?" Like it almost scared me because it happened so
Yeah,
fast.
yeah.
And then it was like I had email after email. I want to join this program. Hey, do you have a private coaching program? And it was like six really quickly in. And I was like, I mean, it was shocking. But then as time has gone on, I realized that the quicker you really kind of sink into that, knowing that there are so many people working on your behalf to get you what you want. And then sometimes it's just like they come up against roadblocks and it's because it's for a reason. There's always like for a reason. And then the moment you open yourself up, then that it leaves them space to come in. And then it's like, and it's a softening and there's no yanking for things to happen.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I also love how this works for physical healings too. When we surrender or loss, so we just surrender into it, we're allowed to see and witness what we're supposed to see and listen and
Yeah.
experience so we can learn, right?
Well, yeah, and the chronic illness is something I dealt with for a really long time. And when I realized that the chronic illness physical symptoms were that of an unprocessed trauma, it was like the heavens had opened. I didn't even realize that you can hold on to shame and guilt for a long time and the symptoms get worse and worse and worse. And I had done so much work to figure it out, changing the food, changing the supplements, going to different doctors. But what it really comes down to is going inside. It's just going inside and really taking an inventory on what needs to be looked at.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. That's really beautiful. Um, Most people have caught on by now that I've had a major healing recently. And that's really the aspect that I found was I had to find the emotional
Mhm.
element. We have an emotional element, we have a physical element. They're both happening at the same time. And most people only want to heal the physical element and don't realize that there's an emotional reason why. And when we go on that little journey and just ask those questions, right? Listening to our body, what's going on? What do I need to learn?
Well, yeah, and there's the emotional, there's the physical, there's the spiritual, there's the energetic.
Yeah.
So it's like when you are fully aware that you are just trillions of molecules of energy, it is eye opening. So for you to have such a healing awakening and to go through that, I can't even imagine how tapped in you are.
Thank you, Jay. It's really sweet. Yeah. It's just been a beautiful journey. It's been a beautiful journey. Let's talk about how to activate your gifts. You have some 3 simple steps.
Yeah. So activating your gifts first comes from knowing, or this is actually, most people go, I don't know what my gifts are. Okay. So ask your friends, ask your family, ask someone you trust, what are you really good at? Like, and it could be something as generic as you're a really great listener. You're like, I am. And then so you write down a list of all these things. I'm a great listener. I'm this, I'm that. And then someone will say something that'll make your ears perk up, that you go, what? I didn't really? Because it's something you naturally do really well. It's something that is your gift and you're not even aware of it usually. It's just something people notice about you. And I'm just thinking about my mom. She's like such a good gift giver. Everything is so detailed and it's beautiful. And it's like, it's just, you can feel the love from it.
Mhm.
So ask someone that you trust, that you know unconditionally loves you, or just go inside and see if there's the answer in there. And then after you do that, I have clients make lists of like, so what could be potential things I could do with these gifts? And then you can go all the way back to what you've already done. And you start to see where the dots have connected and how it's led you on the path of where you're going. And if there's something that someone else is doing and you have this feeling, like a girlfriend of mine was published on Forbes for women, or Women Forbes, or whatever it's called. And I had this twinge of like, it was almost, usually I'm super, what's the word? Excited. I can't remember the word, but usually I'm really excited and I'm just like, whoa, but there was this enviousness. There was a twinge of enviousness where I was like, wait, I want to write for Forbes for women. And so I was like, wow, if I hadn't seen her do that, I wouldn't even have known that I wanted to do that too. So pay attention to those things. When you see people do something, when you see their job title and you're like, I want to do that,
Mhm.
whatever it is, write down those things, because they're all little crumbs that are leading you towards the prize.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's lovely. I'm smiling because I have something similar that I do with ancestors and who we are. So,
Tell us.
but it's like that. Well, we go through our childhood and pull out all the amazing gifts, all the beauty, and we go through then our adulthood, and then so it's like the form of a tree. The childhood is the leaves because it's also an art project too, and then that's me. And then the tree is the adult, and the roots are our ancestors. So we look for 2 to 3 ancestors that we can choose from that feels right with us. And we observe their story and we
Oh,
honor it and we write that down. If you are adopted and you don't have ancestors, or you don't know your ancestors and you can't find them, then go with you can even go with people throughout history that inspire you and write that down, what you honor, what you'd like to express, what you'd like to be. And then we're looking at them all in 3 spaces and we pull out the matching stuff and we put it aside and then we create our tree and it's
oh my, I
so
want to do
fun.
that.
You and I should do it together. It'd be fun.
That sounds, and tapping into that ancestral part is also crucial to frequency, because I mean, I've done so many energy healing sessions and like work with healers, which I'm assuming that some of your audience is familiar with, uh, where they can pull things up from either your past life or an ancestral
Yeah.
trauma that you could be carrying around in your DNA and you just didn't know. And you constantly have these fears or these thoughts and you don't know where they came from. So being able to do what you do and taking them through that ancestral tree, I could see is very beneficial.
It is, because we can also take the things that scare us, right, from our past
Yeah.
life, because I also do a lot of past life. You and I were at a thing this weekend, and I was starting to astral project during one of the processes.
Awesome.
And it was like all these spaces. I mean, it's like I was flying, as anyone who knows what astral projecting is, and you're seeing these lifetimes, and it was just
Wow.
crazy. So we take what we want, right, all the good, and we get rid of the other. We heal the other. And it's beautiful because we can see where we've been healers or we've been hung or we've been burned or we've,
Uh-huh.
whatever. And you get
Yeah.
rid of that shit. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's get back to the nice words.
Eh,
But yeah, I mean, that's activating your frequency. And I love how you brought this into play here. It's beautiful. So you have a beautiful gift for everyone. Would you like to share the deep activation guide?
yeah. So I created the deep activation after the Activate Your Gifts retreat. It all, just like anything that you're really tapped into, within a day, I had an entire 8-week program. And then this deep activation guide came through. And it's really a basic guide to get you going in the direction that you want to go in, that maybe you haven't given yourself permission to. And it's a worksheet just to I like to write about what I want to come true and then fully, I do this in hypnotherapy. Like, you fully step into that feeling of what you want before it's physically manifested. And then it happens so much faster. And so a lot of the deep activation is about stepping into what you want and knowing that it's coming, even if it's not in front of you right now.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's opening our awareness for what we want, isn't it?
Yes,
We don't
exactly.
know what we want until we know what we want.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
totally.
love it. It's so lovely to have you on here. I love
Thank
that
you, Mia.
so much. Wow. And would you like to say something else from your heart before? I know you've shared a lot, but before we say goodbye to the audience.
Just that question gave me goosebumps because my heart is where I lead from. I think that's probably the thing I want to leave with is when you are tapped into your heart chakra, when you've made it through the other side of, maybe you've been burned before, maybe you've had your heart broken, maybe you had your heart broken so badly that it closed and shut up and locked itself into like this gridiron gate. And finally, when you give yourself that key to open it back up, and you can start to take those really expansive breaths, and you can come from a place from deep within your heart, and that's where you create from, that's how you communicate, your life in all ways just flourishes, and your health flourishes, and your career flourishes, and relationships, and it happens so quickly, like, and it happens without you knowing it, but all of a sudden you've shifted into just like some deep open heart space, and it feels the best to you and it feels the best to people around you. So if there's anything you can do to move that process along, meditation, spending time in nature, bathing, whatever it is, I would suggest doing that. Even wearing a rose quartz necklace,
That's
you
a
know,
good one.
yeah, anything you can do to just open that up will get you closer to your wildest desires.
Mm. Love our wildest desires. They're so fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay, for joining us. It was lovely.
Thank you, Mia.
And thank you, everyone. We'll see you in another episode of Health and Beauty Hacks.